All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Android App Addicts podcast, the show where we talk about Android apps, Android phones, and whatever the heck else Door decides we're going to talk about that night. I am your host, kind of, Mark Cockrell, and joining me this week is the one, the only, the door-to-door geek, Steve McLaughlin. Eric is not with us tonight. He is off on a secret executive mission, and he can't tell us about it when he comes back, so hush, hush. Hey, Door, how are you?
I'm doing really good. And I really hope whatever Eric's doing, he actually keeps a bit of his sanity because something tells me he's going to come back like flustered and just wanting to talk like a whole lot about something that happened.
Time will tell.
Absolutely. With that, I'm going to take a real quick moment and just thank everybody who is supporting us on a Patreon. You guys are great support. You want to support us, just go to patreon.com/Android App Addicts. And I gotta ask, Mark, how has this week been for you?
You know, I've had well, wow, it's already the end of the week, isn't it? It's been kind of crazy work wise, but that's, welcome to the real world, where jobs are no fun and you work too many hours. But last night, my kids and my wife were all on their way to church, and somebody rear-ended the van, so that was no fun.
Not good.
Uh,
Hopefully it was slow at least.
yeah, it was my low speed collision, nobody hurt, but even a low speed collision in a Japanese made minivan is $8 billion worth of damage. So the police came, took a report, actually made the guy who rear-ended her tow his truck home because he said he couldn't stop, his brakes weren't working. So they said, well, if your brakes aren't working, you're not driving it home. So they didn't make it to church last night. But the good news is the little one also yesterday went to the doctor and got the crutches are no more and the cast is no more. Her broken leg has healed. So I no longer feel like such a terrible dad for breaking her leg on vacation.
Well, first off, it happens. Secondly, is it me or was that kind of quick? I mean, I know kids heal quick, but that seemed like a couple weeks.
Well, it was 3 weeks, and it's a very minor break. So yeah, they it's all of the above. It was a small fracture, and she's 6, and kids who are 6 heal super fast. So that she's not completely healed. She's still not allowed to go run and play, but they did take her off the brace and off the crutches. She had been walking around without the crutches, and we kept having to tell her, no, you're broken, stop doing that. No, but it doesn't hurt. Yeah, but it doesn't matter if it doesn't hurt, stop doing it. So now she has permission to be running all over the place.
Well, man, I hope it turns out you only got to pay, deductible when the car gets fixed. And I hope all of a sudden she is 100% perfect again. And they say, look, we can't even tell it was broke.
Well,
Um,
that's yeah. As far as the insurance goes, it was clearly the other guy's fault. So hopefully it won't cost us anything. But the insurance company's primary objective is to take your money and not give it. So we'll see.
yeah. And I hope your rates don't get increased because that's not
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, because you were sitting there at a stoplight, you're at fault. Yeah, that's the kind of thing insurance companies do.
Yep. I love doing it. I had a normal, crazy week, I'm going to say. Um, Busy at work, but not for the right reasons. Um, just hectic, hectic, hectic. We had a couple big changes near the top of my organization at work, which now we all have to run around a little bit more, seems like. But things are getting done. We actually have some good people on our team now that really want nothing but the best for, you know, um, everyone else. So things are actually having some progression to monumental success, but we'll find out here in like a month and a half whether or not stuff explodes in our face or we get a thumbs up.
I just finished reading or listening to the audio version of Walter Isaacson's Steve Jobs biography. And one of the things, you can't tell the story of Steve Jobs without telling the story of Apple. So one of the things they talked about was Steve's obsession with having only A players and A plus players, and that if you couldn't handle him, berating you, you didn't need to be there because you weren't good enough. And as much as I would hate to work for a boss like that, I would like to work in an environment where everybody there is the best at what they do. That must have been a pretty special time.
It had to be, but also I would have to think the real good people got really, really burnt out
Right.
from it. The what's it? The bright flame, quick death thing.
The fire that burns twice as bright burns half as long. Is that what you were getting at?
Exactly. See, I didn't even have to explain it. You know it. Well, the first thing I wanted to ask you is, I am now not in the mental camp of being a beta tester for anything, for anybody anymore. Every Linux distribution I run is based off of a long-term support, and that's it. I'm not installing anything else unless it's long-term support. I crave stability, and on all my Android devices, the newest one I have is Lollipop. So, but you have had Marshmallow here for over a week.
The day Marshmallow came out, October 5th, 6th, whatever that was, I went and side loaded it onto my device. Because it's a rooted device, I couldn't get it through the OTA anyway, so there was no point in waiting for the OTA. So I went and got it. Um, I guess I'm just a masochist at heart. Not only do I install the latest and greatest thing, but I do it on my production daily devices. So stupid, I guess, is one word. Brave is another. Marshmallow is a fine iteration of the Android. There aren't any really great show-stopping features. Just enhancements. Um, I can't even name off the top of my head anything that's noteworthy. So if you don't have it, don't run out and grab it. There's some cool little things, but they're just little things. I felt the same way about Lollipop actually when it first came out. They were really incremental enhancements, but after you've used it for a while and you go back, you realize that those incremental enhancements really changed your world. I went back to KitKat on a device, and I was like, it's the Stone Age. Even though the enhancements were small, I found I couldn't live without them, and I'll probably feel the same way about Marshmallow. Um, but in typical fashion, on my Nexus 5, there appears to be a memory leak.
Oh,
It will randomly reboot, and I know that I'm not the best test case because I installed it literally the day it came out. I installed a rooted kernel on it. They fixed it so that the normal rooting paths don't work. You actually have to apply a patched kernel, so that could be part of my problems. But it's I ran into the same thing with Lollipop on the Nexus 5 for a long time. There were memory leak issues, and they would perform really badly. And some combination of the Agent app that I've talked about here before, and the Audible app and Google Maps. When I have all three of those going, which is 2 or 3 hours a day every day as I'm driving, it just performance gets to the point where the phone will overheat and spontaneously reboot. And I haven't figured out which of those three or the combination of, I don't know what it is. The Audible app updated just today. So I'm hoping that there will be things like that where they will fix it. But that's really my only complaint about it. But it's a big complaint because it's a large percentage. My phone is primarily a media playing device. I don't use it for a whole lot of else. So we'll see. It got so bad today that on the way home, and I run my GPS even when I know where I'm going, because when you live in a metropolitan area, having real-time traffic updates is important. So I haven't tried Waze, taking each thing out of the loop, but we'll see. But today I got really frustrated with it, and so I just said, "Okay, Google, play me some rock and roll," and so it did, and I rolled the windows down and just jammed to some old-fashioned um, Led Zeppelin and Leonard Skinner on the way home.
well, personally, it's hard to go wrong with Skinner, number one.
Yeah, well,
Um,
that's what I loved about it. None of that music was I own. It's the Google Music app. I just said play some rock and roll, and that's what it came up with. And yeah, can't go wrong with Zeppelin.
yeah, I subscribe to 63 podcast here, and when I do run out of podcasts, which is now like 2 or 3 times a week for a couple hours, I do listen to Google Music, and the Google Radio, quote unquote, just works. You
Mhm.
just pick something or a genre or an artist and just hit play and it just goes. So yeah, I'm a fan of that.
Unlike Pandora, it's more likely to actually play the artist you give it.
Yes. I found that out too. On Pandora, I would have to wait sometimes 20 songs to hear the person's name I put in the search. Um, but the 2 things about Marshmallow, the only 2 things to me of true noteworthiness, um, one is the enhanced security permissions, which are only applicable when applications have updated their API
Right.
structure.
So far, only a couple of my apps have done it.
Exactly. So it's going to take literally weeks and weeks and weeks and months for someone to install Marshmallow and to have really good control over a large percentage of apps. So that to me is it's a cool feature, but it's not really there yet because of the apps. And the second one is the Google on tap, which to me, I don't know. I mean, when Google Now voice actions kind of first came about, they were almost seen as a novelty. Like, oh, yeah, yeah, that's nice. That's neat. Okay, whatever. But now I'm like hooked on them. Like I use them a lot.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think on tap is either going to die a novelty or in 3 or 6 months, we're all going to think, man, how did I ever live without this?
I haven't found anything useful for it yet, but that doesn't mean much.
Right. I think part of it is going to be brain conditioning. Knowing when to use it is going to be the most important feature of it. So it's going to have to train us when is the right time, when is the wrong time kind of thing.
Yeah, so I definitely need to get a new phone. The Nexus 5 is long in the tooth. I've had this Christmas it'll be 2 years and that's just an eternity in phone world. So I'm still looking. Um the uh the Huawei offerings look pretty interesting to me. I'm considering the 6P, the Nexus 6P, but again, you're a beta tester, so I'm trying to decide it. So, I've said it on the show before, I'll say it again. If you have suggestions of things that I can purchase legally, I want, I think I'm ready to go 5.5, 6 inches, I don't need. Nobody actually needs it, but I want because I'm a geek. The quad core with 4 gigs and I need a laptop that I can stick in my pocket.
Right. Yeah. And I'll say I make a lot of people mad now when I say, well, no, the main reason I don't want to own a Nexus because I don't want to be a beta tester. And people are giving me a lot of flack when I say that, but that's I don't want to be dumb and say that's the truth. You kind of are being a beta tester.
Right.
And to me, like what you just said, the recent iterations of Android, I'm not at all antsy or giddy or up on running them. So I personally think to run a Nexus device now, it's kind of a mixed blessing. The bad thing is, of course, Nexus cameras never seem to compete with normal phone cameras because of the closed source proprietary firmware that has to be on the camera.
Well, with
Um,
the 6P, that seems to be different. I've seen things that say it's better than even the iPhone camera, which is sort of considered the standard these days.
well, it is, but this new iPhone is now rated by I don't remember who it was, the number 7 camera on camera phones, and that has never been the case with iOS. So something's going on very poorly, I'll say, at Apple for their what used to be their killer. Their camera is now being number 7 on the market.
So what's number one? Probably Nokia. They rock in the phone in the
Uh,
camera phone area.
Nokia was, I know, up by the top. I want to say the number one still might have been the Galaxy Nexus 6, I think. Brand new. So you'll have that kind of thing.
Samsung really burned me on the Nexus, the Google Nexus that they did. I can't remember which one it was.
Galaxy
Nexus
Nexus.
S, the Nexus S before, and I kind of decided that I was never going to buy another Samsung device after that. And I know they've come a long way since then, but um, I'm having a hard time seeing them as a premier hardware creator. For a long time, HTC was, the hardware creator, and then they've fallen off. And so intellectually, I understand that things ebb and flow, but once you've been burned once by a piece of expensive garbage, I'm having a hard time considering Samsung again.
Yeah, I consider Samsung to be the most mass marketer and the mass producer, like of the S S5, I want to say, or it might have been the S4. There was literally 17 different versions of that being manufactured because there's the USA AT&T, the USA Sprint, the USA Verizon, the International, and they just kept going and going. The Samsung Galaxy Nexus I had was the first device to make me upset I had a Nexus device because the antenna in it was so bad, so unbelievably bad. So yes, I'm also not a Samsung fan, but they make great cameras. That's what everyone keeps saying.
So my wife had an S3 and loved it. But my wife and I have we look for very different things in phones. So the fact that she loves it does not necessarily mean that I'm going to like it. And of course, OnePlus is always out there in terms of specs and price, but who can get one? And now they're releasing a new one in just a few days.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. The OnePlus One is still, I'm sorry, a super capable device. This thing still runs fantastic. Good size, good everything to it. The OnePlus 2 to me is a non-starter. There's nothing about it that seems groundbreaking or even
Right. They
good.
threw a USB-C on it and called it
Well
good.
well, USB 2.0 technology on a USB-C front end, so it's
Right.
pointless. But now, yes, they're gonna in October, I think it's 25th maybe, they're gonna announce another device. I'm hoping that's gonna be something worth talking about, or else, uh, I don't know.
The question is, do they have stock? It doesn't matter how good it is if you can't get it.
Well, they do, I'll say this, because the actual parent company is Oppo, and if you look at Oppo, they're coming out with new devices almost all the time. They're not the super crazy high-end devices, but they're typically pretty good devices.
Yeah, but the invite system for the OnePlus 2 has been even slower than for the OnePlus 1.
Well, I think that's because 'cause they're not selling. I haven't heard anybody say, "I have one and I love it."
Mm, good point. How about we read an email since we've discussed here a little bit
Uh,
with Eric's absence.
I love email, and Eric, while he's not here, I know he's going to listen to this. Eric, I am saving, like, 2 apps for when you're here because I know when I have an Eric app.
All right. So this email is from Sam from Notter's World. It says, "Thank you guys for the awesome work. Just wanted to mention an app I looked up and found. I'm currently working on another leather project for someone and needed a fractional calculator for fraction dimensions and found an app called Fractional Calculator Plus. Excuse me, Fraction Calculator Plus by Digital Alchemy. Digitalchemy LLC. It's a great app and very easy to use. There's a free version, but I bought the paid version for $1.99 to get rid of the ads and to support the developers. Welcome, Mark. I like listening to smart people, and you guys are the ones. Keep up the great work. Cheers. Sam from Notter's World."
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, I will say I did look at this, Sam. I am almost happy I don't need this calculator because just looking at it made my head hurt.
Well, if you're working on a third grader with math, a fraction calculator is a pretty big deal because there are lots of calculators you can punch things in and they'll give you the decimal version, but not many things. My go-to used to be Wolfram Alpha, but now they've gone pay,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
that's annoying.
Yeah, I don't understand the logic behind that. Um, just seems not smart to me. Just seems not smart. They had a really good thing going. They had people's eyeballs, and I think that they just messed it up.
Yeah, I mean it was a great tool, but there's not enough to pay for. You know what I'm saying? I'm not unwilling to pay for things, but there's not enough there to make it worth paying for.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And yeah, I am gonna have this in the notes if anyone wants to check it out. I'll say this. The good thing about this calculator is it looks like a calculator. Because there's some calculators out there that want to be fancy and different and to me they make no sense. I'll
Did
say
you put that link in
thankfully,
the chat door?
I will right now.
All right.
Um, I will say, um, my oldest son, all the fractions he's had to do, I've been able to do in my head, thankfully. Thus, still holding on by my fingertips to my child still thinking I'm smart.
Yeah, I don't know how much experience you've had. You've got two young kids, so I'm sure you've dealt with this the whole Common Core math thing. And we run into that all the time where we'll have a problem, and I'll get it, help this child get to the right answer. But we didn't do it the right way. We didn't color the boxes, and we didn't draw a lasso around the pony. And so they actually get it, quote unquote, wrong for not doing it the right way. So even a calculator like this wouldn't help if you have to, bubble the donkey or whatever.
Exactly. I will say I did make one of my children's teachers mad because they wrote us a letter saying no one should do math like that. It's the old way to do it. We don't teach it like that anymore because it's not the quote unquote right way to do it. This whole long dissertation, and then ended it with, um, it is old and outdated, just like push lawnmowers. So I went over a buddy's house, took his push lawnmower out, had my son take a picture of it like I was mowing my lawn, and I sent it into the school.
Awesome.
Yeah. Just because it's old doesn't mean it is not the right way to do stuff or doesn't work.
Yeah, we are those old guys, to her.
Well, and I'm not the guy that thinks change is not good. I like change. And I'm a personal believer. I'll say this right now, real quick. I believe Common Core math is nothing more than a attempt to educate as many people at once, i.e., a lot of people learn in a lot of different ways. Back in our day, if you learned too slow, they sent you to special ed. You were in a class with a whole bunch of different people who learned differently, and everyone who learned the normal quote unquote ways was in normal school. Now there is no special ed. So now I think they're literally throwing every different type of possible education mechanic out there, hoping each kid will catch on to one part of what they're teaching. And then by the time they're teaching the entire different ways to do math, then every kid, no child left behind kind of mentality.
All right. That's enough for Android politic, Addicts. Have you got an app for us? That was both an email and an app. What have you got for us?
Yes. Okay. The first app I'm going to do, let me clean up my URL because I hate when the URL ends in ampersands and garbage behind them. Okay. This app was actually brought to us by TomZ in Google Plus Android App Addicts community. And it took me a second to grasp what this app is, but it's called Photolamus. Photolamus. Okay. The best, most succinct way I can describe this is Uber for artists, which of course is not a really accurate description. But what this is you submit pictures to this service. Artists will take them and draw caricatures of it. Then you can pay them for those caricatures. So
So
it's
it's
an
kind of like Fiverr or 99 Designs, where you see the work first and then decide whether you pay for it.
that's the impression I get. Yes.
Hmm.
I didn't do it because I don't like any pictures of myself, whether they're enhanced or not enhanced. Um, but I just, I'm not going to submit, a pet that I don't even have picture or anything like that. I would say I love alternate ways for people to support each other. And I'm sure this service takes a cut, but I thought this was a genius idea in my opinion.
Yeah, I I'm trying to be positive, but
You
I'm
know,
looking at these pictures and I don't like any of them.
well, okay, first off, here's the thing. When you go on to a carnival thing and there's the guy who has the stand and he's calling people over, do you like those drawings?
Sometimes, in fact, I had one hanging in my hallway for a long
Oh,
time.
because I never like those drawings. I always think there's something very creepy about them. Um, so I'm not the good judge of this. It was one of those things I just thought the concept could work.
My on my honeymoon, my wife and I been married a couple of days. We had one of those done, and it was Dudley Do Right theme.
Uh,
Instead of she was tied to a train track with a train coming, only instead of being Dudley Do Right, he was off in the corner and I was Dick Dastardly and I was actually tying her up.
nice.
Because why not? And yeah, that one hung in our hallway for 15 years. So I like some of them, just not all of them.
Gotcha. Well, did you take your honeymoon to Niagara Falls?
No, we went to San Antonio.
San Antonio, Texas, and got a Canadian. Okay, yeah.
Well, Dudley Do Right's fond memory. That's what I was going to say. So yeah. Anyway, let's move on to a message sent from Patreon by Simon. Simon, first off, thank you for being an awesome Patreon supporter. You help us more than you realize, even if you only give us a nickel. And he says, "Hi guys, keep up the great shows. Mark is fitting in well. I can't wait for the Dini Media website update. Are you guys getting the new $50 Fire tablet? Steve, your kids remind me of when our girls were young. They do get better, I promise. Love all your work. Thanks for introducing me to faster playback podcast listening, which means I can listen to." I can listen to do much more, although I don't think I will ever get to Steve speed. Most of the apps on my OnePlus 1s are things that you have recommended.
Yeah, I'm up to 2.5. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go to 2.6 here pretty shortly.
I'm at 2.2 on mine. That's good enough, I guess, for now. I read something just recently, just like this week, that the average person can listen to and understand 750, 800 words a minute, but can only speak about 100 words a minute. So theoretically, you could get that up to 8x and still be able to understand it.
Ooh, well, yes, but I'm going to say this right now, man. It is a slow, methodical baby
Right.
step process. And I will say, I did this the other day, Mark. YouTube, I call it YouTube desktop, but it's YouTube in a desktop browser. You can now do speed up. You just click the gear, and now you can do speed up 1.2, 1.5, or 2x. And they also have slowdown features. But I'm just going to say this: old Cosmos, Carl Sagan at 1.5 speed talks completely normally.
That's nice.
Yeah, I thought that was great because I remember like a year and a half ago when we were trying to watch it. I'm just like, this is just he's talking too slow and just a little bit too methodical. So when I did put up 1.5, I thought this is fantastic. He's talking normal. So I watched like
That's
2 episodes back to back.
that's what it feels like for me when I slow my podcasts down to normal speed. It sounds like everyone's talking like this. But when I speed it up to 2.2, it sounds perfectly normal. You adjust. And like you said, you start out, you go to 1.2, then the 1.5, and then the 1.7. And eventually your brain normalizes to the point I don't even notice that it's fast anymore. And
Right.
I'll come out of the, bathroom from brushing my teeth at night, getting ready for bed. I've got a podcast playing, and my wife is like, "What are they even saying?" Like, well, I didn't even notice. I forgot.
Right. Well, the 2 things I have about that is, 1, I can't remember what podcast player I was listening to, but it could only speed up downloaded episodes. And it started playing a streaming episode, and I didn't realize it. And it was Leo Laporte, and I want to say it might have been Steve Gibson. And like a minute and a half, 2 minutes into it, I thought, are both these guys sick or something? They sound horrible. They sound like they're on lithium or something. They literally sounded to me like they dropped 15 IQ points and they were hurt. That's how it sounded to me. It sounded so bad. And then I realized I'll speed up. Okay, yeah, yeah. But the second thing I realized is I insist on listening to as many family friendly podcasts as possible, just because if I'm listening to something and I pick my kids up, I don't want to even have to use the brain cycles to think, is it safe for them to listen to this? So I try listening to nothing but family friendly. But the other day they were in the car and I'm listening to a podcast, and then they said, I can't remember what it was. And I asked my son, I said, well, yeah. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, they just said that. He just said what? I have no idea what they're saying.
You don't have to worry about it being family friendly. They can understand it.
And then I thought, what am I worrying about? They can't even understand what's going on here. So yes, but I'm still family friendly.
And then moving on to the next part of his email, the $50 Fire tablet. I gotta say, I'm not a big believer in tablets in general. Um, I did a head count just the other day, but old tablets, some of them with cracked screens or whatever. We've got about 9 tablets in my house
Ooh.
right now, including an iPad, a Gen 1 iPad. And they're YouTube devices, they're Netflix screens, and they're stupid goat evolution games. Um, None of them are ever used for anything useful other than just entertainment. And I think that the $50 Fire tablet is the right price. I'm sure Amazon's losing money on that. But I think that for a pure consumption device that really serves no redeeming value, $50 is about right. And you're talking to a guy who has spent hundreds of dollars on tablets, but in my experience, in the years I've been playing with them, going all the way back to my old Windows tablet with the stylus that you could flip the screen around, I'm so over tablets. I don't find them. I don't think there's a functional productive use for them. They're purely entertainment devices. And for that, I mean, a $50 Fire tablet running a remote control app would be cheaper than buying a remote control in a lot of
Yeah,
cases.
exactly. I'm a firm believer the only functional use except for Clash of Clans or some stupid game in the average household is just a couch computer. You're watching something and you want to look something up on IMDb. Except for that, I think tablets for the most part are uncommonly useless.
Right.
Um, I
And I
like
think
mine.
the 5.5 inch, 6 inch, six even 0.2 or 3 inch phone is the perfect blend between those two. You get all the benefits of a tablet and the functionality of a phone, and you just have one device. I think that's why even Apple, who said they would never do that, is moving that direction. People are realizing that you don't need a 7 or 8 or a 10-inch tablet. You need a 5.5 or 6 inch phone, and you're good.
Yeah, I have my 10-inch tablet with a good keyboard, and I use it when I don't want to carry around a laptop. But I know I'm weird, and yes, I'm with you. The larger the phones are getting, the more it's driving the need of tablets just completely down and out, except for kids' toys. That's like the last bastion of a tablet, in my opinion.
And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. But I've just decided that I'm over it.
Mhm. And for $50, it's the perfect near disposable device if your kid breaks it or loses it. No big deal.
Yeah, and you could buy, six for 250, so you could get them for even less than that.
Yeah.
And if you're a Prime person, there's no shipping, so it's amazing.
And I'm sure
Um,
my youngest son would go through 6 of them in about 2 months.
right, and at that point, you wouldn't even cry too much.
Nope, not at all.
I did read an article on, I believe it was Engadget, a hands-on review of that thing, and one of the things that they said was, it's clunky in that it's the Amazon OS is clunky, not that the device was, but one of the comments he did make was there's advertising everywhere. I mean, the lock
Yeah.
screen is an ad, and the whole thing, and that's what subsidizes that $50 price.
Yeah, as soon as you turn it on, bam, even the boot screen has an ad on it.
Yeah, and which is what the old Kindle did, but it was, they were at least a little more subtle.
Yeah.
All right. You got another app for us?
Yes, sir. Let me get these in order. Okay, the next one I'm gonna bring to you is not completely family friendly. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna see what's rated here in the store. It says everyone 10 and up. I don't know. I kind of think this should be a T for teen one. I will say that. And it's called Ittle Dew. ITTLE space DEW. Like it'll do, but the word little with the L chopped off. So it'll do. Everyone 10 and up. No in-app purchases. It is $5. I first played this on Steam as a desktop game about a year ago or so. Um, this is definitely in homage to Legend of Zelda, classic Legend of Zelda, old NES Legend of Zelda, but it's definitely a little bit sarcastic in nature. Um, like one of the first things it does is when you kill something with your sword and a heart falls on the ground, you pick it up. But if you notice, in all video games, basically, if you leave a heart on the ground after about 5 seconds, it disappears, right? Or a couple seconds, it disappears. Well, your companion, your annoying companion, because in every Zelda game now, of course, they have annoying companions. Your annoying companion says to you, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" And then it shows a picture of you holding a cartoon heart in your hand with a big bite taken out of it. And it says, "What? I'm eating this heart." He said, Where'd you get that from? He said, I got it off the floor, man. It has the five second rule, dude. So it's very like sarcastic. And then later you buy red potion and your companion says, "Oh my god, what are you doing?" He says, "What? You complained about me eating the hearts, so I went and got this potion." He said, "Dude, how do you think that is made?" And then they show a cartoon thing of the guy in the back of the shop crushing fairies, and what you're drinking is their blood juice stuff. So it's not kid friendly. I take 10 and up. I honestly might say 12 or 13 or up, but it's a puzzle based game. Legend of Zelda top down 3/4 view, sword action, magic action. Actually, this game is a heck of a lot of fun, is what I will say.
All right. I don't even have a response to that, but
Well, it's $5, so I don't expect you to buy it. And to be honest, I don't expect a lot of people to buy it. What I will say to people is, this is another example of a game that worked absolutely pristinely perfect on my GPD XD5 handheld gaming computer that just made a noise that I really didn't like. It just worked, and it just worked really good. Um, and it beats spending 30, $40 for a game cartridge for my son.
all right. So I will move on now to both an email and an app from Simon Wetz, who brings us an app called AmpMe. And the idea of AmpMe is that maybe it's a use for all those old Android tablets I've got laying around. You install this app on all of them and you play music and they all play it in perfect sync. It's like a cheap Sonos in your home. So you buy a 6 pack of fire tablets and stick them throughout your house and you've got a budget Sonos system. It says it'll install on anything that has both has a microphone, so it must listen to the stuff that's going on to be able to get things to sync up. Sounds interesting party app. If you got a bunch of guys in a room that all have phones, why not put them all to work playing party music?
Yeah, this to me is one of those little things. It was a quiet achievement, is the way I'm going to put it. Um, in the past, all of these kind of apps sucked horribly because you would say play and they would be off by sometimes a full second when you did that. And I say this because I tried to do it. I tried to have my home receiver stereo playing something softly. Because here's my logic. I don't want it loud. I just want it softly. But I also want it playing over here softly and over there softly. I want to be able to go into different rooms and still hear it without having to carry something around. Um, this actually
Oop, just lost door. We'll never know what he was going to say. This actually something. I guess if he's lost, you're not hearing me either since he's the broadcast. So I'm probably talking to myself entirely. Welcome back. So I wonder what the interesting thing about most cheap Android devices is they have terrible speakers. So you'd have to plug in some other speaker to it. But it seems like a neat idea. It says here on the thing that it's only compatible with files from SoundCloud and that more services are coming soon. I haven't used SoundCloud, but I assume that you could probably find most of what you're looking for there.
you can find a hell of a lot on SoundCloud. I will say that. And I'll say, for instance, you're home, you're younger, you want to have a party. You don't have to have the music blaring. You just, like you said, put devices in the corners of the rooms and you just have a little bit of
I could see it certainly being useful. Um, Something to try out.
Yeah, and free. So, there's very little to use. To lose, not use.
All right. While you're arguing with your technology there, I wanted to mention that we talked a little while back, a few weeks ago, about the fact that Dor had sent me from a listener, and he'll tell me the name because I've already forgotten what it is. An Asus Zenfone, Zenfone 6. That I was playing with and putting through the tests and trying to figure out what I found out in my playing with it. One of the things I had mentioned earlier was uh, I found myself unable to go back to Android KitKat from Lollipop because I'd gotten so used to the extra features, the on-screen notification, things like that Lollipop brings. Well, this thing, once I rooted it and ROMmed it and well, didn't ROM it, but put KitKat or Lollipop on it, I found that the phone part of the phone didn't work in Lollipop. I did some forum searching. It's a common thing. Basically, Asus said, "Yeah, whatever. We're done with that. We've moved on to the Zenfone 2." So it's a phone that is great for KitKat, but apparently will never be able to go beyond KitKat unless you just want a tablet. So, having said that, what we've decided to do is if any of you in the audience decide you want a KitKat phone, we'll give it away, and I'm going to let Dor decide how we give it away. But it's a neat device, high quality. It's just never really, as far as I can tell, going to go beyond KitKat.
Yeah, I'll say OS aside, it's a pretty solid device. Intel processor, 2 gigs of RAM. It runs really good for the specs on the device. It will work on AT&T, T-Mobile compatible networks. We'll give it away next episode, October 22nd. It will give it away when Eric's here, and how we'll give it away is going to be basically, you know, free for all. I will say if you are in the Android App Addicts Club, you will be preferential. Right now, pods.com/Android App Addicts Club is not working. So if you want to join the club, email me at mail@pods.com and I'll add you to the list. I am working on getting that page done on the website. But as I said, it's an iterative, it's a work in progress.
I will say this: don't take it if you can't use it. If we draw your name and you can't use it, just send us an email and say, "Nah, not for me."
Right. Yeah, and that was John the Man Dubinsky. Thank you very much, Sean.
All right. And let's see. I think it's your turn now to do an app.
Okay. Surprise, surprise. I'm going to do a game here. Mark, this is another game that I got immediately great results with the GPD X5 Game Boy like handheld gaming device. I did have to map the controls, and most of the games I have to map the controls. It is literally a process that takes 8 seconds now because I know what I'm doing. Really easy, really quick to do. I'm not sure how this game is in the Play Store for as long as it is because I'm thinking it has to be violating copyright or something. XWing Flight. This is by Tuha, whoever. Never heard of them before. They only have 2,000 reviews on this app, and I show it has between 100,000 and 500,000 installs. No purchase, no in-app purchase, no nothing. You just fly around. Now you can change the view, first person, second, and like third person view. You're flying around the Star Wars verse, shooting uh everything.
TIE fighters.
Yeah. Shooting the TIE fighters, the commander type TIE fighters, attacking destroyers, star destroyers. Um if you do get to the Death Star, I haven't got there yet because this is not an easy game. There's definitely like levels and stages. You have different types of weapons, First stage, just kill a couple TIE fighters. Second stage, kill like twice as many TIE fighters and they get a little bit smarter. Third stage, kill even more TIE fighters. You learn about your extra weapon you have besides just the blasters. Um, the graphics in this game are not fantastic. They're pretty good. The movement and controls in this game are pretty fantastic. I will say that. Heck of a lot of fun is what I'm going to say. Just a heck of a lot of fun. If you like Star Wars at all, you need to check this out. Again, it's called X-Wing X-Wing Flight.
1994, I had an X-Wing fighter game on my 386 SX with a math coprocessor. Man, it was the best machine you could buy. And the graphics on this are way better, than what I had on my full-on desktop computer. So, yeah, I've already installed it. I'm going to play with that because who wouldn't want to fly an X-Wing?
Exactly. And you can change the camera angle, which I will say sometimes it's cool to watch the X fighter in action. It's just cool. But then sometimes you got to go in first person view and handle your business.
All right. So let's move on to another email. We're just going to bring tons of mail tonight. This was from Mike Hawkins. He says, at one time, maybe 100 episodes, maybe years ago, you responded to a listener asking, no, begging you to give the name of the app more often, especially as you wrap up the review. Well, that lasted maybe 2 episodes. I have to repeatedly rewind and review because there's very little mention of the app name except once or twice at the beginning. This is so aggravating. Hey, I thought you had a spreadsheet somewhere that we could look up or to review apps. I never found it after spending hours on podnuts.com. One other small point, it would be nice if you mentioned the apps that behave badly from a privacy or resource point of view. Be nice to focus on quality rather than quantity. Welcome, Mark. I think you're filling Steve C's shoes well, Mike. I will say Steve C's shoes are much too small for me. I would never fit into them.
Exactly. We're never going to say the name of the app enough. I mean, yeah, much love, but that's just the way it is. We are never going to say it enough. We can say it a good amount. We can try to say it more, but we're never going to say it enough. And everyone's just going to have to accept that. 1, Google Plus Communities, Android App Addicts. Every single app gets published to that community as in real time we bring it up on the show. Number 1. Number 2, we have a spreadsheet. It's listed in the newsletter. 3, the apps are in the newsletter. So it's a bunch of different places. And if you were to go to podnuts.com/forums, shows, Android App Addicts, show picks, it's there. Granted, that one is definitely a little bit harder to get to. But yeah, any answer to anything Podnuts related is just an email away. So you didn't have to spend hours looking on a website. You didn't have to spend a split second on a website. All you had to do was just send an email and you would have got it. We don't bring up misbehaving apps because we don't want to give misbehaving apps any airtime. Period. We try to talk about good apps. And if a app is misbehaving, when we talk about it, we don't know about it, or else we wouldn't have brought it up. So there's nothing bad to talk about. Why? Because for the most part, all those quote unquote misbehaving apps have never been proven to do anything actually bad or ill. They're just poorly programmed.
Right. And if we wouldn't recommend an app, we wouldn't recommend an app. That's what we're doing here. We're bringing apps not just to tell you that they exist, but to tell you that they have merit and quality. So the ones that don't, we don't bring to you. And if I'm sure it's never happened to me, but I'm sure if we found one that just completely misbehaved after we realized that after we brought it to you, we'd come back and we'd say, hey, that thing that I said, don't do that. Yeah, and Endure has always been very good about making the information available via email and Google Plus. The place to do it is the AAA community on Google Plus. And if you were looking on the website, well, the website, let's talk about that a little bit. The website has had some issues. We've got some email from people saying that they had trouble downloading some shows. Are all those things worked out now, Dor?
Uh, are you going to ask me more? They're all fixed. Um,
Okay.
I'm sure there's more stuff that isn't working, but the feeds are working. We have the numbers pushed up as high as we can in how many shows appear in the feed. Because if you get above 1024 kilobits, I believe, FeedBurner will not work anymore. You have to have smaller feeds. So I got to figure out a way to have a feed for quote unquote all episodes. Um, I am working on that. There is no download link in any of the show postings. So if you right now go to pots.com/AAA404, there's no download link. I'm working on that as well. Those are two modifications. I think I'm gonna have to probably pull a WordPress guy in to wave his magic wand and twiddle his fingers and figure out how to do that kind of stuff. But for the most part, virtually everything on the website is running as it should be, except for pods.com/eBay and pods.com/Newegg. And I will say they are on the priority list, but they're on a priority list directly proportional to how much money they've earned the pod nuts, which is combined in over 2 years, they haven't got earned me $10.
I will say, in my experience, the last couple of weeks, I keep getting multiple episodes of the Podnuts show downloaded, as I'm sure you're tweaking the feeds. If you're seeing the same thing, just rest assured these things will be fixed. But unfortunately, that's the way of RSS. If you make a change, you change one character in the feed, some devices will see that as all new feeds and go download crazy.
Yeah, I'll say what really most podcasting clients you have to do, because I literally have like 6 of them installed on my phone testing them, is you most of the time have to reset the feed and treat it like a brand new feed, and then reset the feed and mark everything as heard, and then go back and mark what you haven't heard as new, or else you will keep getting anomalies in the feed. Uh, like one guy kept getting in the Linux for the rest of us feed pod nuts shows, no matter how much we did, and then finally reset the feed, and voila, it worked. Everything should be working, as I hold my breath thinking.
Site looks really good though. If you haven't checked it out, podnuts.com, go check it out. It's it's a nice layout. It's nice graphics. All the pretty stuff that the kids these days like. You go to elementopie.com, you will see what not to do on a website. It's what kids liked in 2009.
Yeah, well, I'll say is not a site of my own design, aka it looks good, but unfortunately, it also means that there's curved edges. So sorry about that, folks.
Let's see. It's my turn to come up with an email, and I have been falling down on my job. This is from Ignacio. Let's see, I've got a couple of things here. It says, "Hi, guys. My name is Ignacio. I'm a Spanish listener living in the UK. Thank you for the great shows you put on here. It's people like you who make the internet great. Here's a recent concern I have about my Android device to see if you can shed some light on this. Lately, I've noticed that on certain occasions when I turn off my smartphone, there is for a second at the top of the screen what looks like a geolocation icon. It's like the symbol of a target, and after a second or so, it disappears. As my personal policy, I've always tried to keep myself as Google-less as possible, but recently I was obliged to create a couple of accounts with them to use some of their services. I wonder if this could have something to do with that. The icon appears even at times when I'm not connected to the internet. And like I say, it lasts only a couple of seconds. Am I being stalked by Google? If so, do they want me to notice it? Otherwise, what's the point of that icon appearing? If they want to play Big Brother on me, couldn't they do it, at least do it with more discretion? Or is the whole point precisely creeping me out? If that's the purpose, they can report full success in my case. And to that, I recently watched Mr. Robot's pilot episode, and you can understand that my paranoia thermostat is currently through the roof. So, any hypothesis you could give me on this matter would be highly appreciated. Thanks, guys, and keep up the good work."
Okay, well, part of the reason why I bring emails to the show even after I quote unquote answer them is because when I hear somebody else speaking them out loud, more things click in my head. Um, there is a Google Plus location policy, uh, l- l- low location services, and there is a location services that should be built in to your OS. Um, I'm gonna email him back again when I find that exact spot. But yeah, on my Lollipop OS, I pull down the notification drawer, I go to settings, I go to location, and then I go Google location history. And here is where you can turn off, is Google watching where you're at? And to be honest, it's watching where you're at for a lot of context sensitive things. So when I'm at a conference and I hit the mic and say locate liquor store, it doesn't have to turn on my GPS and see where I'm at because it already knows. Um, it's really in there for that, and it's for Google Plus. In Google Plus, you can turn on location sharing. So that is another place where you can go and edit it and look at it, but that's only if Google is using it. Okay. Old back in the day, you could load what was called spare parts. Turns out that's now been deprecated, so it doesn't really work. On a more modern Android, you could use LBE Privacy Guard, but I believe that stopped working in Lollipop.
Yes, I used
So,
to use it.
right. So now in Lollipop, you can use X Privacy. X Privacy, what you can do is basically limit access to GPS to everything. So you can make it anytime an app wants to use GPS, it has to ask you. At least then you have an idea of what's using it. Now, in the future, 3 months, 6 months, a year from now with Marshmallow, you'll simply be able to go in and see everything that's accessing your GPS. So there is no one answer, thanks to the diversity of our operating system experiences that we all have.
So to answer your question, Ignacio, is Google stalking you? Yes and no.
Yes.
They are stalking you, but not without your permission. And it may be permission of omission, meaning you didn't turn it off.
Right.
So your phones. I, I've I come from a very different standpoint than a lot of the tinfoil
I,
hat
I
crowd.
I love how you totally changed persona there right when you were starting that. Go ahead.
And I'm all about the sharing. Sharing is useful and valuable as long as it's disaggregated, anonymized. And every time anybody's ever looked into this sort of thing with Google, they found that that is the case. It's disaggregated, it's anonymized, and it's for you. It really is the phone trying to help you. And like Dor said, it's preemptively getting your location. It's also can make it easier to track things like the strongest cell tower. Sometimes triangulation doesn't work very well, but they can use GPS to do that. I don't know that that's what's going on, but I know that there is some technology available for that. So if the good news is if you go in and you find the hidden setting, and well, it's not hidden, but the not easy to find setting, and you turn off location services, they'll leave you alone. But you're probably going to lose some functionality that you didn't know you really wanted when you do that.
Yeah, and or things will just be a little bit slower when you try to use certain things because it has to say, "Oh, wait. I have to get your location." Yeah, so one of those things. I don't want to sound like a mother, but they're following you around for your own good.
Yes.
And I personally believe this, even if you turn it off, it doesn't matter. You watch Mr. Robot. When you use 911 to make a phone call on your cell phone, you call up emergency services, whatever your phone number is in your country. Guess what? They turn on your GPS and get your location anyway, which means they always could.
And your cell company knows more about you. Your credit card company knows more about you than Google ever will.
Mhm.
So unless you're willing to live like Ted Kaczynski and go out in the wilderness and build a hut out of fallen trees, you just got to get over the whole is are people stalking me? The answer is yes, and just get over it.
Yeah, and I'll say my ISP, like Bart says, knows far more about me, but the company that really knows what about me that matters, to be honest, is Amazon, because they know what I'll spend money on, and
Exactly.
that's valuable.
Yeah, I log into Amazon and it'll say, "Hey, you haven't ordered these candy bars that your kids like in a while. Would you
Yeah.
like to go ahead and throw those in your cart?" Yeah. That's creepy, but also cool at the same time.
Yeah, because it's usually right. That and Netflix, dare I say, know more about my family than anything else.
My problem with Netflix is I have such an extensive collection of movies, all legally purchased from my own DVDs that I ripped, that almost everything they recommend I already have. So not terribly useful.
Nice. No, but it's still nice to be reminded. Oh, guess what? It's Back to the Future week. Go watch that.
Yes, yes, it is. So, Dor, bring us one more app before we wrap up this evening.
Okay, this is another overpriced thing, but it's cool, Mark. It's cool. Okay. Back in the day, I want to say it might have been on PS2 and maybe Nintendo 64, possibly, was when this game genre, this game brand came about. Okay. NBA 2K16 on Android, $7.99. I haven't pulled the trigger possibly yet on this one, but I used to play this game back on the console days. This looks better than, maybe it was Super Nintendo. This looks, I know, better than it did on the console I was playing on. That's all. That is one thing I will say right now. And I did look at video of it on YouTube. I'm not a basketball guy. I have not cared a lick about basketball since the days of Karl Malone, Michael Jordan, and those guys. But basketball on a video game I always found to be kind of fun.
I'm telling you, these graphics are every bit as good as the graphics were on my Sega Dreamcast in '99 or whenever that was. When it's generations behind computers, but it's a phone, for crying out loud. It's amazing what we can do.
Yeah, and I'm fairly confident with saying this would work perfectly on the GPD because I see physical buttons on the screen. And if I have buttons on the screen, I'm in there like swimwear. And I'm very sorry for saying that, but it's true.
Oh, the visuals that just prompted. I didn't need those.
Yeah,
And
that's
what the
ooh,
mind's eye has seen cannot be unseen.
that's some abused swimwear. Okay, I'm gonna throw one more app out there for you, Mark. Uh, Completely free. I'm going to preface this with I am really mad because I I downloaded this on my GPD and I started up, and when I started up, it just says it's trying to log in, and it can't quote unquote connect. I'm going to guess that their game servers are overwhelmed. It's the only thing I can guess because this game looks that you want to talk about console quality looking game. This is called Blitz Brigade Online FPS Fun. This looks very console like, maybe last gen or gen before that, but it looks really smooth, really good gameplay is what I'll say. But I can't connect to the server ever. So it makes me mad.
I'm watching the video on the site now. That is very impressive. This is first person shooter. This is first generation Halo stuff here. This is better than even the old Doom stuff used to be.
I know, but the bad part is it's online only. That's it. There's no offline mode whatsoever. So that alone makes me upset. I do not like when games do not have any offline mode. Um, which, because I know when I load it up, I'm just going to get pounded. I'm going to get pounded into the dirt like a rag doll. But it looks like it could be fun.
And it's compatible with even some of my pretty old devices. So that's kind of surprising to me.
Well, I would know this if it would load for me. I would suspect, looking at this game, you actually might be able to turn down a graphic setting or two to make it run better on lesser devices.
Yeah, my old Asus Transformer TF101, the very first transformer that Asus made, is on the list of things this can be put on. That's impressive, actually, to get that kind of performance off of 8-year-old hardware.
Yeah, yeah. And to me, this game almost looks like a port of Team Fortress is the game I'm going to say. Um, it has vehicles in it, standing up, walking around, 12-player team action kind of thing. I'm going to keep trying this. I'm going to keep trying this until at least next week. And then when I get really mad, I'm going to uninstall it. But um, I want to play this at least once.
Well, there you have it. He can report back next week. So that's a spate of apps and a whole bunch of emails. We're down to just 3 emails in the queue right now. So if you want more emails over the next couple of weeks, it's up to you, people. You got to send them to me. AAA at podnuts.com is the way to do that. Go check out podnuts.com anyway and see the new website. Don't forget that you can throw money at us using Patreon or the Amazon affiliate. The Amazon affiliate link is really the best way to go, because if you're a geek like me, you're using Amazon anyway. It costs you nothing. It's a completely transparent experience for you, and it throws money at door. Why would you not want to do those things?
Yeah, painless, painless.
So any other final words before we say goodnight, my friend?
Mark, I definitely want to thank you for everything you do. And I'm really happy to hear, because I listen to your other show where it's painfully obvious the other guys don't listen to this show, and I'm okay with that because they're cool guys. But I'm really happy to hear Chris, yeah, Chris experiencing the
Artemis, yes.
Artemis, and how much fun he had. So I'm vicariously living through him because I haven't found people who are willing to put up with me long enough to play it.
I haven't tried it, but I can tell you that I could snap my fingers and have 10 engineer geeks at my house within an hour to play that, which is kind of why I haven't. I'm kind of scared of what might happen if we did that. There would be such a geek coalition there that it might actually cause a singularity of geekdom.
Well, you know, and I know you would first have to make sure you have house rules implemented very well to what they can and can't do.
Yes. I don't know if my bandwidth could handle it out here. Hey, if you know of an uncarrier for bandwidth, let me know. I'm looking for my internet access is terrible, and like everybody else in the country, I have 2 choices, both of which suck. So I'm looking for somebody else. If you know somebody out there who's doing LTE or something like that in the Atlanta area, and you know something I don't, let me know, because man, there's got to be a better way to do this than dealing with a couple of companies that know you don't have any other choice and don't care about you.
Yeah. It's like they're laughing at you.
Yes. Laughing all the way to the bank because they cash my check every month. All right. So I think that's going to wrap us up. Dor, thanks for letting me hang out with you. And listener, thank you for being a listener. You are literally the reason we do this show. And so we'll see you next week when we should have all 3 of us back on the next Android App Addicts.